here to teach you how to start up the DCS when you don't know where to start. So let's get started. I'm going to teach you how to turn off the aircraft, how to turn it on, how to take off with the aircraft, and then I'm going to teach you how to use the weapons on the aircraft. It's just a Frogfoot, by the way. This is the Su-25T. Let's do it. So you go to mission, laser guided bomb practice, and then you hit OK. And then you can read here. It actually tells you pre-flight what your controls are going to be. I still use all of the same, like the air to ground mode 7. I use that on my keyboard. I just have my keyboard in front of me. I'm sitting in a chair with a controller in my left hand, with the stick. The left stick is going to be your main stick. Okay, we'll get that set up in a second. It sounds like a lot, but when you're in it, it doesn't feel like a lot. It just when you're doing the actual process, it's so worth it. I promise it. God, this game sounds so scary when you talk about it, but it's not. Oops, I hit the microphone. Stupid menus, but just hit fly. It's the exact same menu as it was last time. Now when you get started, so whenever you get started in here, you're going to hear a robotic voice. It's going to tell you that you got some stuff to go practice on. Don't worry about her. I'm going to shut the engines off so I can teach you some of the buttons. While everything powers down and you contemplate your existence, you can use your mouse to scroll in and out, to zoom, alright? This might feel a little fast, maybe it feels too slow. There's a key button combination to speed that up and slow that down that I can't think of right now. So you're on your own there, folks. But if your look sensitivity is really fast on the get-go, if you're in here like, wait, I can't do anything normal. Well, believe it or not, that's normal. I can't find a single place on the internet on how to actually fix that properly. So one, get used to it. Two, press your Windows key. You type in mouse settings, and then you do your pointer speed, and then you bring that down. That's all for the mouse right there. It's used to look around. It's used to zoom in and out. It's it's very, very useful to have like one of those head trackers and stuff. Yes, it's useful to have VR. No, you do not need it. I'm not going to even detail in this video, if you will, those pieces of this game and how they connect, because I don't have them. I have a VR headset and I use it sometimes, but I still go for mouse and keyboard and the controller because it's just convenient. This is kind of requiring you to have a controller. All right, so the first things first, you're in your aircraft. It's probably really loud if you were sitting there with that open. You could have hit your escape key at any moment. It shuts off the sound, so it's not super loud because you probably can't shut off your engines yet. After you get the escape key going, you want to press adjust controls, not options. Options is for like your video settings and your audio settings. You want to go to adjust controls. It's going to bring up this menu. I think the menu is going to be smaller for you. I don't know how I made it full screen, but it's stuck like this for me. Anyways, let's get into the top left, the very, very, very top left where it says your control options. Under that, you're going to select the plane that you're using. If you just downloaded this, you're only going to have the Su-25T and the TF-51D real? I don't know, one of these two, and the Su-25T. Select the Su-25T. Make sure you're on that or you will not be changing the controls of the plane. One of the caveats of this game, if you will, the simulation, is every single plane that you get in the future, you have to set up the controls for. So once we set this up one time, it is not set up for every plane. It is only set up for the Su-25T Frogfoot. All right, glad I can help you there. All right, you're gonna click this little drop down next to it that says all but access commands. We want the access commands. That's actually what we're gonna start with because those are really important. You're gonna click on that. All right, make sure you have your controller plugged in. All right, make sure everything's ready to go. You're gonna start with your roll. So to roll, left and right, you wanna push the stick left and right, and it'll show up whenever. There it is, Joy X. All right. What you're going to do is you're just going to hit OK. Now that you got your roll set up, you're going to want to get your pitch set up. Your pitch is your up and down. You want to push your stick forward and backwards, and you want to push them back repeatedly like that until it catches it. All right, now that you got that set up right there, that's your pitch and roll, you're going to notice that there's probably these little white bars here. All right, these are your dead zones. All right, so you're going to want to mess with these things, or if you let them go like that, your plane is just going to go in whatever direction that is. You don't want that, so you want to come all the way down here to axis tune. And we're going to tune this bad boy. Push left, let go, push right, let go. And you see that little gap between the two squares? That's called the dead zone. You want to push this until those two squares meet. Usually it's around like 9, 10. you want to get them to be. You want to be as perfect as they can. I go always a little bit over. I also add to 25 to the curvature here, and that just adds a little bit of smoothness to the stick, and so you're not direct input control and stuff, and it's not going haywire. So once you do that, now whenever you push the stick left and right and you let go, it shouldn't have the little white bar at all. And then we go do the same exact thing for joystick Y. We push it up and down now to make it look left and right, as you can see that. You look at the stick and bring those until they look like they're touching together. And that's about 11, 12, maybe even 10. But I like to go a little bit higher, like I said, so we're gonna go to 12. And always put my curvature to 25. You can either type it in here, or you can drag it out to use it. And don't use the slider. I didn't mean to click that. Make sure that's off. But yeah, change that to 25 and then enter. And now whenever I push up and down, the stick comes back to center without any dead zone. There you go. All right, so this right here, the slew. All right, this is the i25-1 slew. The horizontal and vertical. This is your, this is that little TV monitor, if you can see back there, that's through the menu. This is how you're gonna actually like use the slew. And so I have that bound to the right stick, and you're probably thinking, oh, why don't you just have your look bound to the right stick? If you use this absolute camera view or anything like this, go for it. I had no luck using that. It didn't work out for me, and zooming in and out was a nightmare. So I use my mouse and keyboard now. I use my mouse to look around and my scroll wheel to zoom, and I use my right stick for the TSD slew, which I'll show you what that does here in a second. So same exact process that you use to get your roll and pitch. Double click here. This is in the vertical, so it's up and down. So it's gonna be RY, and hit OK. Then you're gonna do the left and right. You want a horizontal, and you want to go to, oops. We're gonna double click that, and then we're gonna go left and right, and then we're gonna press OK. Then you're gonna click back on whatever one you're gonna want to adjust. If you have that dead zone, and you can see I do. I need to go to axis tune, and we need to move this vertical up and down, let it rest, and then bring the dead zone in. And then I like to go another 1 or 2 up. And again, on the curvature, I'd like to set this to 25. Next one that you see on this list is the rudder. All right, your rudder is very important. That's how you're gonna turn while you're on the ground. So what you're gonna do for the rudder is you're gonna double click. I use with the Z axis there is both the triggers. All right, so I use both the triggers, and that is the Z axis, and that's going to help with rudder control. Yes, it's left and right. You might have to invert them depending on which way they're going. When you'll see when we turn on the plane, we get moving. You'll press the right side. If you're not going to the right, then you need to invert them, and you'll see that here in a second. All right, so after you got your axis controls down, you're going to want to scroll all the way down to systems. You get used to controls pretty quickly, and if you forget them, just go back to controls and just remember that you started in axis command. That's where those controls are, and then you want to go, I do one full scroll, and then it's right in the middle, systems. We'll start at the very top. So the air brake, you want to have that on an easy use button, because when you're doing like gun runs, especially on this plane, you want it on a decent button to use. It's gonna be easy, so I like to just use it on my stick. So I press down on the stick, and you can see that's button number 9 it's registering as. And you can just see it's just a click. All right, and to activate the air brake, you click, and to deactivate it, you click. Sometimes you have to double click it to deactivate. It's very finicky, but you can physically see the air brake though, so you'll know if it's up or down, and you can also hear it, and I'll show you that here in a second. The eject, I don't use eject very often, but if I have to, I generally use the Control E. I actually forgot I had a controller keybind for it. This is for the electrical power. You want to make this something very odd, because you're only going to use this to turn the aircraft on in the middle of, or like right at the beginning of the mission. You might not even use it at all. So you might not even want to do this. You might just want to use the keyboard shortcuts for it. I went ahead and bound them to practice my modifiers. All right, which I'm going to use this as an example. So you can see this has like 3 buttons that's being used to activate this power switch on a controller. And how I'm doing that is I'm using these modifiers down here. You have to add the modifiers. So every time you do this to a plane, you got to come down here to modifiers. You have to add. You have to go to, click on your keyboard, go down to your controller, and then press your button. And I'm using the select button as a modifier. So I press, which it's already a modifier. So we're gonna press a button. So imagine I pressed the select button. All right, so press the select button. It's gonna pop up right there. You're gonna hit OK. Once you hit OK, it's gonna add it as a modifier. You're not gonna be able to use that as a singular button as a command. It's gonna have to be attached to another one. Okay, then I do the exact same thing. I go to Add, Controller, and then I press the Start button. Okay, so then once you press the Start button, this button right here, that's what's gonna be used as another modifier. Since these buttons aren't really gonna be used in the middle of combat or anything, these are your modifier buttons. They're in the middle of the controller. Now you can actually use them as key combinations for anything. So you go ahead and hit OK and OK again, and then now you have those as modifiers. It's probably going to kick you back out of the systems. So again, go up to the top left, hit this, do one big scroll, and it's in the middle of systems. All right, back down to your electrical power switch. Now that you have your modifiers selected, you're going to press both your modifiers at the same time. Well, you can press them individually like that, as long as it has add modifiers down there, joy button 7 and 8. So now you know that they're both 7 and 8 right there. And then I press X. That's my electrical power switch. So now I have to press both of those and X at the same time for it to turn the electrical on and off. Then you're going to want to come down here to your engines, in plural. All right, engines start. And you want to come over here and set that. And I have that set to both of those buttons again, and then the right stick in. So I use my pointer and middle finger of my right hand to press those two buttons down, and then I use my left thumb to press down that, and that starts the engines. And then if I want to stop the engines, it's the opposite. It's those same buttons, but with the right stick clicked in. I'm never going to click those in the middle of a fight or anything, so I can't accidentally shut my engines off. Isn't that cool? Very cool. I set the flaps manually with the actual keyboard just because it's easy. You only do it for landing, you only do it for takeoff, so it's kind of like while you're doing it. Same thing for the landing gear. I don't actually use this key combo. I just use G. For the wheel brake, I do use this button, and what this is it's the start button here, and then it's this the left bumper. And it's two key combos is because this left bumper is used alone as the throttle down, and then those two together, the wheel brake. But you can set this to whatever you want. This is my preference. Once you got the electrical power on and your engine started, you're ready to go. Once you're ready to go, well, we gotta figure out how to use our weapons. So you're gonna come down here to weapons. Look at that. From systems, it's the very bottom piece right there, weapons. Very, very simple controls here. So you have all these. Yes, you have like the ripple increase and decrease. This is to like increase and decrease the amount of bombs that are dropped at like a certain amount of time, and like you don't have to worry about that, okay? Because you're probably only gonna be dropping like a single bomb or two. So just don't worry about increasing this. If you want to learn more about that, you can, but I just want to get you into the air and blowing up stuff on the ground, and have fun doing it. All right, so I have these two only things selected in here are on the controller, and that is to fire your weapon and to change your weapon. To change your weapon, I have it set to Y, as you would in most video games. You press the Y button to change your weapons. And then on fire button is A. Well, because you fire with the A button. So when you want to fire, you press the A button. You can set them to whatever you want. That's just my preference. And then that's that for weapons. Now that we got the weapons set up, we have to go to the sensors. I know that we're kind of going like all over the place here, but we're getting there. The sensors, this is a necessary step. Okay, for one little tiny thing. Okay, the rest of these I do use the keyboard and mouse controls for. It reminds you how to do them whenever you're doing the training session. So it's just a matter of repetition and doing missions over and over again until you kind of memorize the controller scheme or your mouse and keyboard scheme, and then you just get used to how those things operate together. And then I swear it's fun. I swear it's fun. This one thing is just target lock, and that button 10 is the click in of the right stick, okay? You want to click that in, and that's because when you're slewing with the right stick, you just click in to lock up on the target. And I'll show you what that means here in a second. I think that's all the buttons. Did I forget anything? Oh, trim. Trim is very important. We cannot forget about trim. So we need to come down to flight control. You need to be able to use your throttle. So here's throttle up and throttle down. So you want to come, same thing like the engines. You want to do throttle levers, plural. So I use my right bumper for up, and then I use my my left bumper for down. And that's just to increase and decrease speed. You can see here that throttle up is also numpad plus. If you're doing my method of the mouse and keyboard, I highly recommend, if you have some way of changing your mouse's buttons change your back button or change some button on your mouse to numpad plus. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier, because then what you can do is you can use the left bumper to decrease it, and then you can use the mouse button or the numpad up button to increase your throttle. So you can keep your hand on the mouse and one on the controller. And it sounds weird, but it works. It works so well. Trim your nose down. That literally means you're pointing your nose down. I have it set to the D-pad up. It's because it's reverse. Like if you've ever, like when you fly, your stick is in reverse. So these are the same in my brain. So when I trim, I press up for the nose to go down. I go D-pad down to push the nose up, and then I push the D-pad left to roll the plane left, right to roll the plane right, and that's just to set it. So you just tap it like that a couple times to get it set up in its proper set. So I'll show you when we get up in the air. You'll see it, the stick will move just like a little bit, and that'll keep our nice and smooth flight while we're going. Next one is to trim your rudder. If you're ever like taking off when there's like windage or anything like that, you want to be able to trim your rudder a little bit for takeoff. So I have it set to, what that is the modifier joy button 8, which is a start button. And then I have it set to left D-pad. So you just hold start and left D-pad. And that's just to give rudder trim, which is rare that you have to use it. So that's why it's an awkward button combination for me. And then same thing with the right, is just hold that start button and press right on the D-pad. And then that's your trim for the plane. I think that's it. Countermeasures. Not communications. Countermeasures. Countermeasures are what you use to deploy when you're like trying to get away from missiles. You want your chaff dispense. I have that set to B on my controller. It's the right side. It's the B button. It's easy to remember. And then the other countermeasure for flares. All right, flares is supposed to be on the X button, and that's just because it's on the X. And so when you're dodging radar or heat-seeking anything, you just slam that X button and you're dumping flares. All right, I think we're ready to start this thing up. Look at these missiles we got. These are laser-guided munitions. We got the same exact set on the other side. You're wondering why your mirrors are to the side. I couldn't tell you, but how do you get those? You press M. They kind of work. All right, we're going to start it up. So I have it set, again, my electrical power. Start, select, X. Turns on the power, and then you kind of see some of the stuff come to life. That goes into position. You want to wait until that zeroes out, and you want to wait until your HUD comes up and displays all 0. Usually takes about 10 seconds, whatever that is if you're cold starting. Then I have my engine set to start on the start, select, and then left stick in. And then if you just wait a second, you can listen to those engines purr up. If your canopy's up, I still use the left control C to do the canopy. So that's just a keyboard control right there. All right, it's just the average one. It's just left control C. Canopy. Engines are now spooled up. We're basically ready for takeoff. So this game is not nearly as scary as people want you to believe it is. All right, so now that you're ready for takeoff, that button that we use for our throttle is now going to come into handy. This is our throttle on the left here. You're going to press your the right bumper, which is what I have for my throttle, and you're just going to push it all the way forward. Once you're going to get going, you're going to want to use that rudder control. All right, you want to. So I've actually got mine inversed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my escape button. I'm going to go to adjust controls. I'm going to go to my axis controls, and then I'm going to go to my rudder. I'm going to go to axis tune, and then I'm going to go to invert. Mine was already inverted, but I guess it didn't need to be, or maybe it does need to be and it's just bugged. And so now it should, well, it's still not fixed. But anyways, to invert it, you press that button. I'm just not going to worry about it right now because it's not that big of a deal. To take off on the Frogfoot, you're going to want to get to like 250 knots, which is in the top left up there. You can see right there, it's getting to 230, 240, and then you want to start pulling up on that stick and it's going to start taking off. As soon as you get off that ground, you're going to want to rise up just a little bit. Once you're off that ground enough, then you want to bring in your gear by pressing G. You can hear it. You can see it too, pressing F2. It's very loud out there. Anyways, we got the gear up and everything. For your flaps are right there. You can see that they're all the way down. We want those all the way up, so I'm going to press F and then F again. F is for flaps. It's very easy to remember. And then again, I'm using my mouse to look around, and we're already in the air. Look how easy that is. So once you're in the air and you're getting started, you're gonna press 1 for your nav mode. And now that we're in nav mode, you can see that ENR, that's en route. I don't know if that's actually what that stands for, but that's how I remember it. And then that right there is you're going towards waypoint 1. My waypoint buttons are left control and tilde to go to the next waypoint. And I was told at waypoint 3 that there was targets for me to destroy. So how do we get to waypoint 3? Well, it looks like we're going away from it. And you can use this little thing right here. We want to point that little aircraft to that needle. And we want to get our crosshair in that circle right there, and that means you're going the right way. There is a navigation tutorial. I don't know how to actually properly teach you how to navigate, but the very, very basics. Alright, so let's also, while we're doing this, learn how to read the HUD. So you see on the top right there with the 1800 and the 2500. So the 1800 and rising is my current altitude, and the 2500 is the recommended altitude for wherever it's wanting me to go. So right now it wants me at 2500 and I'm climbing. And then the left one is my speed, so I'm going 410 knots, and it wants me at 550 knots. I don't know any of the, like I said, I don't know any of the specifics. I just know the very, very basics. And then this is that trim that I was talking about. You can see that stick pushing down and the nose going down. I'm just tapping my D-pad so we can even out. You don't want it to be rolling anyway. You don't want it to be going up or down. You want it to be flat. So right now I've trimmed it perfectly, where we're not moving anywhere. Except for like a little bit roll. So I'll put like a little bit more back in there, and it's, so you can see it's kind of wanting to roll left. I just tap it once over. It's wanting to roll right again. I just tap it left, and then I adjust, and then boom, we're flat flying. I'm gonna teach you how to use this bad boy here in a second. It's F10 for the map. Again, I have most of the default controls. Here's our targets. I'm gonna turn. Press F1 to go back in your pilot seat. That's where they are. Alright, so when you want to start getting into your range of your targets, or you know where your targets are, you're going to press 7. That's going to put you in air-to-ground mode. You can just see that the HUD changed completely, and you can see that it's in ground mode. Alright, that means that you're ready to drop bombs. So you can see those 2 dashes right there. Those 2 dashes line up with those 2 dashes down there, and those let you know what kind of weapons you have. You can see that there, it's a YP. I don't know exactly what that means, but if I look over my right shoulder and I can see it's at the very end, that right there is the big old rocket right there.
Select air to ground mode.
Oh, I'm going to follow her exact directions right now. I'm just going to press O. So that's going to turn on this little screen down here. All right, and then the controls that we set up earlier, if you set up your slew on your right stick, you should be able to press your down and up and all that. Of course, mine's inverted right now. And then I should be able to, there we go. Now we have full pipper movement. You can see on the screen that's moving, and then you can see that little circle, it's called a pipper, that little pipper move. I'm draining my altitude right now, so I want to bring it back up. All right, so now that we got the screen on, all right, now we can see through that eye, and we got the little pipper up there. We can slew this down here, so you can see if I press right shift and O, the LR that comes up means that the laser's on. And then I use that to slew onto my target, and then I click my right stick in to like steady it to the ground. So see how it's like kind of like weird and it's like all over the place right now? I know it's saying like all over the place, and it's like steady right now, but so I want to click in the stick to get it to steady on the target, and then whenever you hover over a target, it does that. It locks up on the target. And you want to get within range of that target. Ooh. And depending on the range is those right there. See that bar, that second bar on the right where the arrow is about to go? It's right above it. Oh, it just switched over. It's going to be under it here in a second. It means I'm in range and I can launch that missile.
Launch authorized.
And literally just tells you when the launch is authorized. And because this is a TV guided, I think I need to hold lock the entire time. So we're going to slow down a little bit and make sure that keeps the lock on it. That's target down. And usually you just want to get like one target at a time. It's very rare that you're going to be able to get like more. So as soon as you go over your target, you want to shut your laser off because it can overheat. And now we just dumped a missile off that left rail right there. We're really light on that rail, so you can see that we're dipping to the left. So now we got to add some trim. We got to add some left trim over there so that we're evened out now, because we just dumped a shit ton of weight off. And that's the same thing. And then you want to just climb and get to the next location, and then like turn around and come back. And you want to keep doing that. That's how you fight with this thing, with all these different missiles. And it's the same kind of method with the lockup. You get that pipper over where you want to go, you click the stick in, you hover over it until it locks it up, and then you press the A button until it launches the missile. And that goes with anything. But I think that's it. I think I learned y'all a thing or two. So like I said, try your best to have like a program or something that you can change your mouse buttons on your mouse, because if you have some sort of button on your mouse that increases your throttle, if you have that, it makes it a lot easier flying around and fighting. This game is very loud. I'm going to turn it down a lot. But it's fun once you get used to the control scheme. It is a little bit awkward if you've never done something like this before. But you get used to it, and you can see like I'm barely moving that stick down and up and around and stuff to move this plane around. Like I'm not going like full, like here's full, and that's over G, you're gonna stall and go crazy. So you light taps, light little tiny movements for this thing. You know, you're a big old lead bird in the sky. This thing is massive and heavy. You wanna be gentle with it. Nice light movements, you don't wanna go crazy with it. Even when you're being chased and stuff, like there's nothing you can really do, you're stuck. This thing's also got a cannon on it, so if you press C, see that secondary pipper that came up right there? That's my cannon, and if I press A, we have a little gun on the gun. It's cool. Anyways, you press C to get rid of it, and then you're back to your bombs only. That goes with most of the planes in this game. They have a cannon on them, but this is free. And why not do some free stuff? I don't remember where our targets were. Oh, they're over there. So I'm locked up on the ground. I've got my target right there. I got to turn the laser on. And I got launch authorization. And then we just launch it off the rails and watch it go. That's it. That's the whole setup.